What's more important, protecting Americans from foreign threats or unimpeded First Amendment rights? That's the question the Supreme Court considered in TikTok Inc. v. Merrick v. Garland. The court applied intermediate scrutiny to affirm the government's role in preventing China from collecting data on U.S. users. Nine Robes uses nonpartisan, everyday language to focus on the facts of what the Supreme Court is saying. Here, you'll find clear, concise summaries of every Supreme Court opinion, stripped of legalese and clickbait headlines. Each post breaks down the facts, explains the court's reasoning, and highlights the crucial details that often go unnoticed. It's not just about what the court decided, it's about why those decisions matter. To give you a deeper understanding of the cases that define our nation's legal landscape. These summaries are generated by AI. Be careful and consult reputable sources when in doubt. The law in question requires TikTok to either cut ties with its Chinese ownership or stop its operations in the United States altogether. The justices decided that this law does not infringe on free speech rights. They found that the government's need to protect sensitive data from foreign adversaries like China is a compelling reason to enforce these restrictions. In their ruling, the court applied a standard called intermediate scrutiny, which means they carefully examined whether the law is appropriate and necessary for the government's important interest in safeguarding American users' information. Ultimately, they concluded that the law is well designed to address these concerns. This decision highlights the ongoing debate about privacy, security, and the role of foreign companies in the U.S. digital landscape. As we navigate these issues, the balance between protecting national security and upholding individual rights remains a critical conversation. The case of TikTok Inc. v. Merrick v. Garland arose from the enactment of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act, which prohibits U.S. companies from providing services related to TikTok unless it is divested from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance Limited. The petitioners, TikTok Inc. and a group of U.S. TikTok users, challenged the constitutionality of the act, arguing that it violated their First Amendment rights by effectively banning TikTok in the United States. The case was brought before the Supreme Court after the D.C. Circuit Court upheld the act, asserting that the government's national security interests justified the restrictions imposed on TikTok. The Supreme Court, in a per curiam opinion, affirmed the D.C. Circuit's ruling, concluding that the act does not violate the First Amendment as applied to the petitioners. The court acknowledged that while the act imposes significant burdens on TikTok's operations, it is justified by compelling government interests related to national security, particularly concerning data collection by a foreign adversary. The court determined that the act is content neutral, as it does not target specific speech, but rather regulates the operation of a platform controlled by a foreign entity. The court applied intermediate scrutiny, finding that the act serves an important government interest and is narrowly tailored to address the risks posed by TikTok's data collection practices. The court emphasized the unique context of the case, given the national security concerns surrounding foreign control of a widely used communication platform. Justice Sonia Sotomayor concurred in part and in the judgment, but disagreed with Part 2A of the court's opinion. She argued that the act does implicate the First Amendment and that laws imposing a disproportionate burden on expressive activities should be subject to heightened scrutiny. However, she ultimately agreed that the act survives the First Amendment challenge. Justice Neil Gorsuch also concurred in the judgment, expressing reservations about the law's classification as content neutral and the implications of the government's justification for the law. He emphasized the importance of free speech and the potential dangers of government censorship, but acknowledged the compelling interest in preventing foreign adversaries from accessing sensitive data. There were no dissenting opinions in this case. All justices either concurred with the majority opinion or provided separate concurring opinions that did not oppose the ruling. The Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act represents a significant intersection of national security and First Amendment rights. The law's provisions specifically target applications controlled by foreign adversaries, particularly those that pose risks to U.S. national security through data collection. The court's analysis highlighted the importance of distinguishing between content-based and content-neutral regulations, ultimately categorizing the act as content-neutral due to its focus on the operational control of TikTok rather than the content shared on the platform. This classification allowed the court to apply intermediate scrutiny rather than strict scrutiny, which would have imposed a higher burden on the government to justify the law. The court's decision reflects a cautious approach to emerging technologies and the complexities of regulating foreign influence in digital communication, emphasizing the need for a balance between protecting free expression and safeguarding national security interests. Find us online at 9robes.ai. That's the number 9robes.ai. Like and share this podcast with friends that like to be informed. 9 Robes provides AI summaries of U.S. Supreme Court cases. AI makes mistakes. People make mistakes too. We genuinely do our best to provide you with the most accurate summaries, but our best sometimes includes errors.